I will pick up exactly where we left off in video number 1, comparing Joyce and Woolf's techniques. As we've just finished reading the first paragraph regarding Mrs. Dalloway, and we have already discussed a little bit more in detail Joyce's first few paragraphs of the excerpt chosen for this lesson. So, as I was saying in the previous video, the main differences that characterize the two different types of stream of consciousness techniques is the fact that in the first case, therefore in James Joyce's case, we've seen that he employs the description of the character's thoughts exactly as they unfold in his mind. We have had at the beginning a brief introduction by the narrator's voice, but immediately after it is the main character who steps in, and we, the reader, reads about what is actually going on in his mind, how his thoughts develop in his mind as he is standing at the funeral of a friend who has just passed away. In the second case, as we've seen, Mrs. Woolf uses the stream of consciousness in a more traditional way. Therefore, the reader has the clear perception that the narrator is definitely Mrs. Dalloway. However, in the first part, she is being described herself by a narrator's introducing us to the scene, and then slowly Mrs. Dalloway steps in and she describes in this piece of writing what is happening, what she is doing. So she is admiring a number of different types of flowers. So she's in a flower shop. She lists all the flowers that she sees, and she also describes the scent that overwhelms her, especially after coming in from the street. Therefore, it is quite clear that the smells that are present in the flower shop are in contrast with the awful smells that come from the street, which are full of motor cars and the crowd and dirt around her, etc. Also the crowd. So the reader has this immediate feeling of serenity as soon as she walks into the flower shop. And she also uses, Mrs. Woolf also uses several metaphors describing the flowers, almost using personifications, so or attributing qualities that are not strictly connected to the flower themselves, but that recall to our mind something else. So, for instance, where it says here that wait, hold on a second. Dark and the roses looked holding, opening her eyes, how fresh. So she had her eyes closed while sniffing and taking in all the nice smells that she's perceiving. And then the writing goes on, opening her eyes, how fresh, like frilled linen, clean from a laundry, laid in wicker trays, the roses looked. So she's using a metaphor. What the roses recall to her mind is the idea of a clean linen just out of the laundry. Or in another case, while describing the carnations, she says, and dark and prim the red carnations, holding their heads up, as if almost they were children holding their heads up, children or people in any case. And then while she goes on listing the colors that she's looking at, so the go from violet, snow white, pale, she immediately imagines in her head that they might even look like girls in the evening, dressed with small and in muslin frocks, that are coming out to pick sweet peas and roses after a superb summer's day. And she also describes the atmosphere of an evening that is the perfect closing of a superb summer day. And she goes on, almost blue black sky, so it's not quite dark yet. It's delphiniums, it's carnations, it's arum lilies, was over. So she describes the day, and she describes the flowers as if they are impersonating young girls. These are metaphors, and there are also images that the flowers around her recall to her mind. As we go on, we will go back to Joyce's excerpt to take a look at the last part. Gentle, sweet air blew round the bared heads in a whisper. Whisper. The boy by the grave head held his wreath with both hands, staring quietly in the blank open space. Mr. Bloom moved behind a portly, kindly caretaker, well-cut frock coat, weighing them up perhaps to see which will go next. Well, it is a long rest. Feel no more. It's the moment you feel. Must be damned unpleasant. Can't believe it at first. Mistake must be. Someone else. Try the house opposite. Wait, I wanted to. I haven't yet. Then darkened death chamber. Light they want. Whispering around you. Would you like to see a priest? Then rambling and wandering. Delirium. All you hid all your life. The death struggle. His sleep is not natural. Press his lower eyelid. Watching is his nose pointed in his jaw, sinking. Are the soles of his feet yellow? Pull the pillow away and finish it off on the floor, since he's doomed. Devil in that picture of sinner's death, showing him a woman, dying to embrace her in his shirt. This last paragraph has almost the quality of a quick pace. It gives a quick rhythm to the reading. So, and it switches from the narrator's voice to Mr. Bloom again. For instance, after the first few lines, we see Mr. Bloom moved behind the portly, kindly caretaker. And it is clear that if he's being referred to as Mr. Bloom, it's no longer his own voice that the reader is listening while reading, but instead it is the narrator stepping in again. You see, it's very easy to see how the association of ideas is the key technique used in this brief paragraph. One thing leads to another. As he is watching the workers take care of the casket, lowering down in the grave, Mr. Bloom is describing on the one hand what he is witnessing at the scene, and at the same time every detail triggers a memory in his head, or triggers an idea, a thought. So he starts to lower himself in the feet of the person whose funeral he's at, almost as if he is imagining what he would feel, what he would perceive, as if he were in his shoes. And it is clear then that he's horrified at the idea of being in the darkened death chamber. What he imagines is that every every victim of a death, every person who dies might wish for light they want. And then he imagines himself being dead and hearing the whispering of the people around him, paying tribute to him, and that is also disturbing. So this entire paragraph conveys the idea of uneasiness, of fear. The death itself spurs in Leopold Bloom. He is imagining himself as if he were the one dead, and if the people at the funeral are there for him. So delirium, all you hid all your life, the death struggle. Immediately you feel that everything that you have tried to hide away from or wave away from your life, at that moment, the final moment, will surface again, and you'll have to look at it straight in the face. And then at the same time, while he is imagining himself uh, in the place of the death man, he is also imagining everyday actions, regular normal things. Press his lower eyelid, as if, for instance, the eyes are not completely closed. So the caretakers are exchanging messages with one another. Press his lower eyelid, or watching is his nose pointed, in his jaw sinking. Every little detail that he observes, or that he has observed in other corpses, immediately come to mind. And he closes by saying, on the one hand, one of the last sentences, he says, pull the pillow away and finish it off. Let's get it over with. Devil in that picture of sinner's death, showing him a woman dying to embrace her in his shirt. Again, it's an association of ideas, something that comes to mind to Mr. Bloom as he is standing at the funeral. But there is no clear difference. There's no separation between what his thoughts are about his personal fear, his personal horror at the idea of being death, and the witnessing of everyday small actions that we normally do, even in such cases.